Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of Malcolm Castaways. My name is Hannah, and with me today is, of course, Braxton, and our very special guest, Mr. Jon Dolliver. Mr. Dolliver, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do and what your job is in general?
Absolutely. I'm an assistant director for the Nebraska School Activities Association. I oversee boys and girls golf, boys and girls cross country, boys and girls basketball, and I'm also the supervisor of officials. So I have a lot of duties here. I also get the opportunity to attend and help at all of the state championships for the NSAA and all of our sports and our activities.
I was going to say, we saw you at state speech.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was there. Very exciting.
It was exciting. Big moment for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like you do a lot, and I appreciate what you do. Appreciate seeing you as an important person around state speech. But yes.
State speech. Let me tell you about state speech. It's one of my favorite activities.
Really?
It is, because
wow.
I actually love the award ceremony. It's my favorite award ceremony of any of them that we do, for obvious reasons. You know, it just to see kids' reactions and being so happy that they got third place, second place, and then obviously for their fellow competitors. So absolutely love going to state speech. It's always a fun event for our office.
Yeah. It was crazy. Carney handled it very well, and the energy you feel in the auditorium when all of the awards are going on is crazy. And I wasn't even competing, but I felt for every single competitor on that stage.
It was definitely not what I was expecting to go into there, but it was fun.
Carney High brought a little bit more energy to the award ceremony than what UNK had done, and it was different, but I think people were just genuinely they enjoyed being there, and that was back on. So
so it kind of sounds like you wear a lot of hats in your job. Do you have some favorite parts of your job, or anything that stands out to you from your day to day?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we do a lot from the start of the season. We oversee all of the activities from the first day of practices through the state championships. And I kind of am, my favorite is the state championships, and to see all of our hard work and all of the communities and kids and teams and individuals, all their hard work come together at the end. I always say that I'm in the business of lifelong memories, and that's kind of one of the cool things that I get to be a part of and see. And it's not always about winning. One thing I do, I walk the losing team off the floor at the end of every state championship volleyball and basketball game, boys and girls. And so I get to see our coaches and how they interact with their kids when they lose the biggest game of their life. And it can be rough sometimes because there's a lot of tears, but there's also a lot of life lessons that are being taught by our coaches across our state. And so I love being at state championships events. I really love walking those teams off the floor, even though they didn't win the game, because it shows that we have a lot of people that care a lot about kids and our activities, and get to see the neat things that they're teaching our young people in a moment that can be kind of heartbreaking for them that they lost that game. So that's probably my favorite thing, is our state championship events.
Jeez. Yeah, their state championships have always been just a crazy experience for all the ones I've been to. It's filled with so much emotion for just and your whole life you play these sports, you do these things, and then you're like, this is the thing, this is where it is, right here is a state event. And I can't imagine just being the person to say, here you go, here's your trophy, or good job. Just to have that weight on your shoulders of carrying that emotion sounds like a crazy fun thing to do about your job.
Mm-hmm.
And did you always know you wanted to be in sports, and how exactly did your path to this job, how did that occur? What steps did you take to get here?
That is a great question. So I started off, I was a high school athlete. I played college basketball. I wanted to be a teacher and a coach, because I wasn't going to be a professional athlete. So I wanted to be a teacher, a coach. That's what my dad had done. And so that was what I went into. And I started teaching and coaching. I taught and coached at Plattsmouth. I was at Blair, and then I wanted to be an athletic administrator. So I wanted to be an athletic director. And I actually got the opportunity to do that at Logan View High School. And I was the athletic director there for 2 years. While I was at Blair, I met someone that ended up being my wife. And our journey together in education started. She was an elementary teacher and ended up wanting to be an elementary principal. And so she got a job at a school called Malcolm. And
I think I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah.
I do too. It sounds familiar.
So when that happened, Logan View and Malcolm aren't very close to each other. And so I started looking for jobs in the Lincoln area. And, the stars aligned for me. There was a job open at the NSAA as an assistant director in charge of wrestling. I'm not a wrestler though. And so I actually was fortunate enough to get an interview for that job. The executive director at the time was my former boss at Blair. He had hired me. And so I got to come to the NSAA, I got to interview, I got to see kind of what this job would be about. A month later, the basketball job, country job opened up. I was fortunate enough to get another interview, and I was selected to have the job that I have right now. The unique thing is there's only one job like mine in the entire state that gets to do basketball and golf and cross country. So to say that this is what I always wanted to do, I don't think that I would have said that, because I wanted to be a teacher and a coach, and then I wanted to be a principal and athletic director. And so I got to do all of that. And then sometimes just things happen, and there was this opportunity, and I kind of think if I would have known about this job, it would have been my dream job. So I do tell people that I get to do my dream job, and here I am.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like you have a dream job, a state job. And yeah, Nebraska seems to have such a great fan base and sports programs. And so, yeah, sounds like you do have an awesome job there.
No joke.
So, yeah. So working for the NSAA, where do you see them over the next few years? Do you guys have any new sports or activities you guys are thinking about adding, or anything like that?
One of the things that we've taken on here last few years, we've started a unified program. I think Malcolm even has a unified bowling team. We have added unified track and field. I'm curious to see where that takes us. There's been talk about unified basketball, other activities within the unified realm. So I think that's one thing that's kind of on our radar with unified. I know bowling was in place for maybe 3 years before we added track and field. And so it may be another 3 years before we take another step in that direction with our unified sports. One thing though, we did add this year, we did add actual high school bowling. And so that was a sport that was added. And then we have girls wrestling on our horizon. So right now it is an emerging sport, which means that they're acting as an actual sport, but we don't have a state championship for them yet. We're going to wait and see how girls wrestling, from what I've been told, it will explode. And when that happens, then we'll offer a girls wrestling championship. So one thing about our office is we don't make the rules. We don't get to determine what we want and how we do it. That's actually our member schools. And so all of those things that I just talked about that were added were proposals that were brought forth by our member schools. And then they vote on it to add those things or to not add those things. And so I'll be curious to see, our schools are very creative in what they do and the ideas that they have. And we just kind of roll with what they want us to do. And that's why we've added all those activities. And so that all happened here in the last 3-4 years. And I've been at the NSA for 10 now. And that was the first time we'd added anything. So it kind of probably goes in phases and, interest, we don't just add things just because. And so we'll take the temperature of our schools and see kind of what they want. And then, if they want to add something, there's been talk about lacrosse and, activities like that. And, it's kind of one of those things where if there's a need for it, the NSA will do whatever our member schools want us to do.
That's pretty cool that girls wrestling and all that stuff is continuing to be added. And I had no idea that it's not up to the board. It's not up to you guys specifically.
Yeah.
It's up to the schools. And I think that's cool that they all have to kind of, not really, but kind of agree to have these things. And one of the things that I know is having a lot more interest, and something that I'm sure people like my brother who just sit around and play video games all day would very much enjoy. Do you think that we'll ever see esports as a state event or any event for the NSAA?
So I know that esports has taken off nationally. It's at the collegiate level, and I know that some of our member schools are participating in that. And it would not surprise me to see the NSAA at some point sanction esports, because I think that it's growing in popularity. I know that there's competitions that go on in Nebraska right now, and I know that there's some colleges in Nebraska that actually offer scholarships. And so I could see that being a proposal by a member school at some point to add it. Like I said, we just added a lot here in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I could see that potentially being something as it grows in popularity in our schools, that potentially could happen.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of interest here in Malcolm with, kids actually doing research regarding that and figuring out how much it'd cost and would they give us any money for it. And yeah.
Especially in the junior high area, a lot of kids are becoming more interested. And I think that really has to do with when they grew up with the more advanced, per se, video games and the more consoles that are being added on, and just that interest is completely different than the interest of regular sports. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they kind of combine those in the future. So
yeah, that will be something. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the next thing that comes down the line from our member schools. I think Strive has done some things with esports, and I know that they're doing more and more. So yeah, again, as it takes off across the country, that's kind of, girls wrestling was like that. It really grew outside of Nebraska, and then it starts to get involved in our schools at younger ages. And so esports, I could see being that next thing.
Yeah, it definitely boomed here over the past few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all we have. If you want to add anything to that, just anything, or
Yeah, I think, the one thing I will add, we've kind of navigated an interesting time period in our office with handling the pandemic and, getting through all of our school year. If you were to rewind a year ago, we were remote learning. You guys weren't in school. I wasn't in the office. And I think where we're at and what we've done, to get to this point right now has kind of been very interesting for our office to navigate that. And I think for our schools, and Malcolm is included in that, we wouldn't have been able to do anything that we did this past year if our students hadn't done what they were supposed to do because of what the teachers and administrators had put in place. So we feel very fortunate this year to be able to be one of the very few states that have gotten everything in. You asked me what I was, proud of before. I think that's another thing, that we were able to get through an entire year where we have some states that haven't done any activities. Some of them haven't done anything indoors. And we've been able to do everything. And we're going to get through our spring sports season, which we didn't have last year. So we're excited about what we did and what we're doing and what we're going to continue to do, and creating those memories for student athletes and students in general with our activities. So no, that's it. I thank you guys for having me on, and hopefully you learned a little bit about the day and what I'm doing. Now I get to see you guys around school or at an event. I'll be able to put a name with a face.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you guys
for
have done
joining us today, and goodbye.